All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about what Shawn Porter has to say about Terence Crawford and the fact that he did not want this fight, and also says that he believes that there could be a stoppage. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter are going to be fighting each other, and I could have sworn not too long ago that both of these guys said that they were friends, but they're not acting like it really very much anymore. And specifically, Shawn Porter is sounding in some of these interviews kind of irritated at Terence Crawford, or at least the idea that he can't beat Terence Crawford, and he's getting a little bit, he's getting a little bit testy about it. Before I get into the meat of the video though, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. It really does help the channel grow. But Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter are supposed to be fighting. I do believe they're going to be fighting in the November time frame. I think that it's probably going to be one of the best fights for the remainder of the year. And honestly, Matt, I got to say, this year in boxing has not really been the best, especially like during maybe the last couple months. But it seems as if it's really picking up with the Canelo Alvarez, with the Deontay Wilder fight, the Anthony Joshua Usyk fight. You've got a fight with this Terence Crawford Shawn Porter fight. It seems like it is really starting to pick up. But one of the fights that I'm really looking forward to is this Terence Crawford versus Shawn Porter fight, because this is going to answer a lot of questions about the welterweight division, and also I hope set up a scenario where we really get to see the undisputed championship. But there are a lot of people that are really disregarding Shawn Porter in this fight. Similarly, like they're doing, like it almost seems like every major fight that we have, there's the opponent is just being completely disregarded for the big name. And this is, like not many people are giving Caleb Plant a chance to beat Canelo Alvarez. You have people that are stuck on, Anthony Joshua, Usyk not having a chance with Anthony Joshua. A lot of people, are saying Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury is, foregone conclusion. When if you actually look at all of these fights have the potential to be close fights and for there to be upsets. And I don't think they're nearly the big gaps between these fighters that people are saying, right? So with Shawn Porter specifically, when Shawn Porter gets the sense that people, think that he's just going in there to lose against Terence Crawford, man, I think this has really gotten under his skin. And he's saying, like, for example, he's like, man, look, we know for sure this is a fight that he didn't want, right? And so you guys are going to be surprised. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to put on a show against Terence Crawford. And I think that people really need to listen to Shawn Porter, especially if you're somebody that is going to be putting your money down on your money down on the fight, because Shawn Porter is somebody that, I think throughout his career has gotten better and better and better. And he actually has, and he's changed the way that he's fought. He fights. He's brought on a lot of different tools. And that's why he's been very, very successful at that level. Now, Terence Crawford has been very successful in his career, but I don't think that you can say truthfully that he's really been successful at that level of fighting, because he's not been at that level of fighting. He's been at a level of fighting where he was, a top-notch fighter or a top-notch talent, right? Skill-wise, all of that. I would never take that from Terence Crawford. But, as far as the people that he's been in the ring with, none of those guys have been at the level of a Shawn Porter. I don't think any of the guys that he's fought has been at the level of even a Danny Garcia, definitely not a Keith Thurman, definitely not an Errol Spence Jr. So when he's coming into the ring with Shawn Porter, there's going to be, I think, a learning curve for Terence Crawford to overcome as it relates to fighting at that level. And that's not something that I think that Shawn Porter has to worry about. This is something where this may be the third or fourth time that Shawn Porter has been in this situation. And when you're familiar with the circumstance, and you've been there before, your experience level rises and you have a better opportunity to perform. And Terence Crawford himself, being a smaller fighter and somebody that really relies upon his athleticism, and also, kind of creeping into the later years of his career, I really think that he's vulnerable to Shawn Porter. Now, that's not me saying that I think that Shawn Porter is going to win the fight. I would give I would give the benefit of the doubt to Terence Crawford, and I've said that in multiple videos that I would lean towards Terence Crawford in that fight. But there is something to the fact that that Terence Crawford did not want that fight. Terence Crawford, and when was forced to, and this is people on my something that people on my chat constantly remind me of. Look, Terence Crawford did not take this fight. Terence Crawford was forced into this fight. Last year, I do believe it was last year or very, very early part of this year. No, it definitely was last year, last summer. Shawn Porter actually went to Terence Crawford and said, "Hey, man, I want to do this fight." He got the go ahead from the PBC to approach to approach Terence Crawford and asked for the fight. The PBC gave him the go-ahead to do it, and Terence Crawford's response was, "Yeah, okay, I'll fight you if you become my mandatory. If you become my get in the situation of being my mandatory, then I'll fight you." That's not a scenario where it sounds like a guy wants to fight somebody else, right? To tell somebody to go ahead and make sure that they have to become my mandatory means that you're pretty much saying, "Hey, if you it's doing just that. It's saying if you force me to fight you, then I'll fight you. What else am I going to do?" And that's pretty much what happened. Shawn Porter forced him by going to the WBO. And I think honestly that Bob Arum had something to do with it too, because it's the WBO, right? And one of the things WBO's name is people joke about the WBO standing for whatever Bob orders. I think Bob Arum had something to do with that fight as well, because it just struck me really funny that the WBO out of nowhere would order that fight. But the start of it was pushed by Shawn Porter. So when Shawn Porter sees that a guy doesn't want to fight you or goes his way out of the way not to fight you, that could be encouraging. And I think something that people should remember with not just the Shawn Porter fight, but with the Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Usyk, Anthony Joshua, pretty much all of these fights, is that these guys are not that far apart in ability. Even though one guy, may be the odds-on favorite or come out, on top, they're really not that far from each other. And an off night or an off situation from any of these guys that you consider to be the favorite can really mess them up, or mess them up. Like, for example, Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. That is a closer fight than a lot of people are saying, because they've got these star eyes on. They got eyes for Canelo, and I think that they're believing a lot of the hype about Canelo and how Canelo is this undefeatable fighter and the greatest fighter in the world. And he very well may be the best fighter in the world, right? But that does not mean that you cannot lose. There's been a whole bunch of situations, times where guys were the best fighters in the world and they wound up losing a fight, right? They may come back and beat the guy the next fight, but it's not, he's not so above and beyond everybody in boxing that the man can't lose. And the same thing goes for Terence Crawford in this fight against Shawn Porter, a guy that has more experience with him. But anyway it goes, I'm just excited to talk about the fight. Boxing had been a bit of a drag for some months, and these fights I do think that are coming up over the next couple months are going to be revitalizing to the sport. We for a little while don't have to talk about YouTube fighters and retired fighters coming out and getting beat up. We get to actually talk about real legitimate top-notch fighters. So anyway, it is what it is. That's my take on the circumstance. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.